The battlefield was silent now, but the silence was not peaceful. It was heavy, filled with smoke, the smell of blood, and the weight of death. The war had ended only hours ago, yet the ground was still burning in places. Broken weapons lay scattered. Across the dirt, torn flags covered in mud, and so many bodies were left behind. Among the ruins, one figure moved. An alien warrior, once proud and strong, now crawled weakly through the ashes. Her armor was cracked, her sword broken in two, and her body shaking from pain. Her face, marked with battle scars, was wet with tears. She had been feared on the battlefield, a leader who never showed weakness. But now she cried like a child. "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Someone? Help me." But no one answered. Her own people had abandoned her. She had seen them retreat, seen the backs of those who once called her their champion. They looked at her with cold eyes, as if she were nothing more than a failed soldier, and left her lying in the dirt. She was alone, helpless, and terrified. The warrior tried to rise, but her legs gave way and she fell hard to the ground. Dust filled her mouth, and she coughed, choking as she tried to breathe. Her chest burned with every breath, and she knew that death was close. Still, she whispered again, "Mercy, please, mercy." She thought no one would hear her, but then, through the smoke, a shadow appeared. At first, she froze, fear tightening her throat. She expected to see the sharp armor of her own people, returning only to finish her. Or worse, the scavengers that prowled the battlefield after every war, creatures that feasted on the weak. She shut her eyes, ready for the end. But the footsteps that came closer were steady, heavy, and human. The alien warrior opened her eyes. Slowly, standing before her was a human soldier. His uniform was torn, his arm wrapped in blood-stained cloth, but his posture was strong. His eyes scanned the field with caution before they fell on her. The warrior's heart sank. Of all who could have come, why did it have to be a human? They were enemies. His kind had fought hers with fire and steel, and his people had been told to show no mercy. She knew he should kill her where she lay. Her body shook as she pushed herself up on trembling arms. "Oh, do it quickly," she whispered, her voice barely stronger than the wind. "End it. I cannot fight you." But the human did not move. He looked at her, his face unreadable. For a moment, the silence between them felt louder than the war had ever been. The warrior lowered her head, waiting for the strike that never came. Instead, the man stepped closer. The alien's breath caught in her throat. She tried to crawl back, but she was too weak. The human knelt in front of her, his shadow falling across her broken body. His eyes, though tired, did not burn with hatred. They burned with something else, something she could not understand. "You're still alive," he said quietly, almost to himself. His voice was rough but calm. The alien warrior stared at him in disbelief. Did he not see her as the enemy? Did he not remember how many humans she had struck down in battle? Why did his voice sound almost gentle? Her chest tightened, and more tears ran down her cheeks. "Please," she begged again, "mercy." The human soldier reached into his pack and pulled out a small water flask. Without a word, he held it to her lips. The warrior's eyes widened. She did not move at first, thinking it was a trick. But his hand was steady, his eyes steady. Thirst burned her throat like fire, and at last she drank. The water was warm and tasted of metal, but it felt like life. Her hands trembled as she pulled away, staring at him in confusion. "Why?" she whispered. The human did not answer. He only looked at her, then at the battlefield around them. The silence returned, heavier than before. But now it carried something else, something unspoken. The alien warrior realized the truth then. He had stayed behind. All the others, Both human and alien had gone, yet he was still here. Why was it fate, or something more? Fear mixed with hope inside her heart. She was weak, broken, and at the mercy of the one she once called enemy. And yet, for the first time since the war ended, she felt a small spark of life return. The human soldier adjusted his grip on his pack, then turned his eyes back to her. There was no hesitation in his stare now. He had made a choice, and whatever that choice was, it would change both of their lives forever. Asterisk the human soldier knelt beside the alien warrior, his shadow long under the fading firelight of the ruined battlefield. His breathing was heavy, his face marked with dirt and blood, yet his eyes were steady. He could end her life with one strike, click, clean, and final. No one would question him. No one would even know. But instead of drawing his blade, he stared at her trembling hands, the way her body shook each time she tried to breathe. She was defeated, broken, yet she still looked at him with the eyes of a warrior. Eyes that once carried fire, but now only carried fear. He remembered the orders given to every human soldier before the battle began. No mercy for the enemy. Do not leave them alive. Do not waste supplies on those who chose to fight us. He had repeated those words like all the others, believing in them, believing that his duty was clear. But now, kneeling before this dying alien, those words felt distant, empty. She had whispered for mercy, and the sound of it cut deeper than any blade. The human gripped the handle of his weapon. If he followed his orders, he would strike now. It would be simple. One motion, and she would never cry again. He raised his arm slightly, the weight of the decision pulling at his chest. The alien warrior closed her eyes. She did not resist. She accepted that this was the end, but the strike never came. The human's arm lowered. His blade slipped back into its sheath. He took a slow breath, as if the choice had carved something out of him. The alien opened her eyes in shock. She stared at him, too weak to move, her heart racing. "Why?" she whispered, her voice almost gone. "Why not finish me?" The soldier did not answer at first. He simply reached into his pack again and pulled out a roll of cloth. Carefully, he pressed it against the bleeding wound on her side. She gasped at the pressure, pain flashing across her face. Her instincts told her to strike back, but her strength was gone. All she could do was watch as he wrapped her wound with firm, practiced hands. The warrior could not believe it. This human, her enemy, was saving her. Every story she had ever heard about humans was about their cruelty, their ruthlessness in war, their hunger for victory. Yet this one was different. He was breaking the law of his own people just to keep her alive. "You are my enemy," she said weakly. Her voice was bitter, but her eyes betrayed confusion. "Why do this? Why not leave me like the others?" The soldier's jaw tightened. He looked at her with a calm but haunted expression. "Because I've seen too much death," he said finally, his voice low. "And I cannot watch another one die like this." The words struck her harder than any blade. She wanted to hate him, to push him away, but her body betrayed her. She needed him. Without his hand pressing on her wound, she would bleed out before the sun set. The human soldier knew the danger he was creating for himself. If his commander discovered what he was doing, he would be branded a traitor. To save an enemy meant betrayal. It meant punishment, even death. But still, he continued. He tied the cloth tight, then lifted her weak form against his shoulder. She gasped again, her pride breaking under the humiliation of being carried like a child. Yet beneath that shame was something else, a strange and frightening relief as he lifted her. The battlefield stretched around them like a graveyard. Fires still burned in the distance, and black smoke rose high into the dark sky. The cries of dying soldiers had faded, leaving only silence, broken now and then by the crack of falling metal or the distant call of carrion. Beasts. The human adjusted his grip and began walking. The alien warrior's head rested against his chest, her breathing shallow, her eyes half closed. She wanted to resist, to demand that he put her down, but she could not. She was too weak, and her body betrayed her again, her mind filled with questions. Why was this human different? What did he gain from saving her? Was this some trap, some cruel game, or something she could not yet understand? Every step he took brought more danger. If human scouts found him carrying an enemy, they would shoot both without hesitation. If her own kind found them, they would call her a traitor for leaning on the shoulder of a human. The weight of the choice hung over both of them. He had made his decision, but the cost was still hidden in the shadows of what lay ahead. The alien warrior, her voice weak but sharp, whispered into the silence, "You risk everything for me. You should not. You should have killed me when you had the chance." The human glanced down at her, his face unreadable. "Perhaps," he said softly. "But sometimes the hardest choice is the only right one." Her heart trembled at his words. For the first time, she felt fear not of death, but of what this human's choice would mean for her future. She closed her eyes again, but this time not from despair. She closed them because she could not understand the strange feeling rising inside her chest. A feeling she had never allowed herself to feel on the battlefield. Hope, and as the human carried her through the ruins. Both of them knew that this single act of mercy would not be forgotten. It would bind their fates together, whether in life or in death. The human soldier moved slowly across the ruins, every step heavy under the weight of the alien warrior he carried. Her body was weak, her breaths uneven, and her blood stained his uniform. Yet he did not let go. The battlefield behind them was a grave, but ahead was no less dangerous. The alien warrior tried to open her eyes. She was not used to being so close to a human to hear his heart beat against her ear, steady and strong. She felt shame burning. Inside her once, she had stood tall with a sword in hand. And now she was nothing more than a burden on her enemy's shoulder. "Put me down," she whispered, her voice strained. "You risk too much." The human glanced at her, his jaw set. "If I put you down, you die. That is not an option." She closed her eyes again, frustrated and confused. Why did he care? Why would an enemy soldier choose to save her? She thought. Of all the humans she had fought, all the ones she had struck down, none had ever shown mercy. But this one was different. The ground beneath them was uneven, scattered with broken armor and shattered machines. The air smelled of smoke and death, and every shadow seemed alive with danger. The human knew they were not safe. Enemy scouts could return at any moment. Scavengers could appear from the dark. Even his own men would not forgive what he was doing. He found a ruined wall and lowered her carefully against it. The alien gasped as her body touched the ground, pain rushing through her side. He opened his pack again, tearing strips of cloth to replace her bandages. "You should not do this," she said through gritted teeth. "If your commander sees, you will be punished. They will call you traitor." The human pressed the cloth against her wound, his face calm but stern. "Then I will face that when it comes. Right now, I will not let you die." She stared at him, her sharp alien eyes searching for weakness in his words, but found only truth. He meant it. He would risk everything just to keep her alive. A heavy silence followed, broken only by the distant crack of metal and the faint cry of beasts in the distance. The alien warrior shifted uncomfortably, her pride fighting with the weakness in her body. "You are a fool," she said finally, though her voice was softer than before. The human allowed himself the faintest smile. "Maybe, but I would rather be a fool then watch another life fade away. The alien's chest tightened at those words. She wanted to hate him, to remind herself that he was her enemy, but the warmth in his eyes unsettled her. No enemy had ever looked at her like that before she could speak again. A sound cut through the night footsteps. The human's hand went to his weapon instantly. He crouched low, eyes sharp, scanning the shadows. The alien's heart raced as she tried to rise, but her body betrayed her and collapsed back against the wall. Shapes moved in the smoke. 3 alien scouts, her own kind, weapons in hand. They searched the battlefield, looking for survivors. If they found her alive, they would not save her. They would call her weak, a disgrace, and end her life without hesitation. And if they saw her with a human, she would be branded a traitor, forever. The human pulled her close and pushed her under the rubble of the broken wall. He covered her with his own body, his arm around her shoulders, shielding her from sight. The alien warrior's eyes widened as she felt his chest press against hers, his breath steady in her ear. She could hear the pounding of his heart, fast, but controlled. She had never been this close to anyone, especially not to a human. The scouts drew nearer, their voices harsh in the alien tongue. They walked slowly, scanning the ruins, their weapons ready. One of them paused, his gaze fixed on the very wall where the human and the wounded warrior held. The alien warrior held her breath, her body trembling under his. She could feel his hand tighten on his weapon, ready to fight if discovered. The scout stepped closer. The human's grip tightened. Nia Elian thought he would strike, but then he stilled, waiting, his muscles like stone. She realized he was protecting her even now, even if it meant dying himself. At last, the scout turned away. The 3 figures moved on, their voices fading into the distance. The alien warrior let out a shaky breath, her eyes meeting his in the darkness. His face was close, closer than she ever thought possible. For a moment, she forgot the war, forgot the battlefield, and only saw the human who had shielded her with his own life. "You could have left me," she whispered. "They would not have cared. You would be safe." The human shook his head. "I will not leave you. Not now, not ever." Her chest tightened again, not from pain, but from something she had never felt before. A bond, strange, dangerous, yet undeniable, was forming between them. As the night deepened and silence returned, the alien warrior knew the truth. This human's choice was no longer just about saving her life. It was binding them together. A risky bond, one that could destroy. Them both saw change everything. Asterisk. The night grew colder as the human soldier guided the wounded alien warrior through the ruins. The moonlight slipped through the smoke, silver on broken steel and shattered helmets. The ground crunched with every step, making each movement dangerous. He knew silence was their only shield. Yet every sound around them seemed louder than his own heartbeat. The alien warrior leaned heavily against him, her arm over his shoulder, her strength almost gone. Each step was a battle for her, but she forced herself to move. Pride told her to walk alone, but her body refused. She hated the weakness, yet she could not deny the human strength keeping her alive. "Leave me?" she whispered, her voice rough. "You slow yourself for nothing. If they catch us, you will die because of me." The human tightened his grip around her waist, his voice steady. "If they catch us, we both fight. Until then, we keep moving." The words struck her, sharp and strange. "We both fight." No human had ever spoken like that to her, like she was not just an enemy, but a partner. A sudden howl in the distance broke her thoughts. Both froze, scanning the dark horizon. Shadows moved, quick and silent, across the edge of the battlefield. Not soldiers, this time scavenger beasts. They were drawn to blood and death, their glowing eyes searching the ruins for prey. The aliens' body tensed. Even at full strength, those beasts were dangerous. Now, she was nearly helpless. The human lowered her gently behind a slab of fallen stone. "Stay here," he whispered, his hand brushing the hilt of his blade. Her eyes widened. "You cannot fight them alone." "I have no choice," he said. Stepping out, his figure tall in the moonlight, the beasts crept closer, their low growls. Rolling across the ruins, the human gripped his weapon, his body steady, though his arm still bled from the earlier battle. He had faced death before, but now the risk was doubled. He was not fighting only for himself. The alien warrior watched, with clenched teeth, anger and fear burning inside her. She hated being hidden, hated being weak while her enemy stood in her place. Yet as she saw him step forward, unflinching against the approaching danger, her heart twisted. This was no ordinary soldier. This was a man willing to stand between her and death. The beasts circled, their eyes like burning coals in the smoke. The human shifted his stance, every muscle ready. He raised his weapon, prepared to strike. But before the beasts lunged, a new sound filled the night voices. The alien warrior's blood ran cold. She recognized the sharp rhythm of their speech. Soldiers, her people. A patrol had returned to sweep the battlefield. The human cursed under his breath and ducked behind the stone with her. He pulled her close, his arm bracing around her shoulders. She could feel the heat of his chest, the steady beat of his heart. The soldiers moved in groups of 3, torches glowing faintly as they stepped over corpses, scanning for survivors. Their voices were cruel, mocking the dead, kicking aside helmets. As if the fallen meant nothing, the alien warrior's throat tightened. She knew these men. They had once called her commander. Now, if they saw her alive, they would call her a disgrace. And if they saw her with a human, they would end her without hesitation. The human held her closer, whispering near her ear, "Don't move, don't breathe too loud." She trembled, not from fear of death, but from the closeness of him, from the strange safety she felt in his arms. His body was tense, every muscle ready to fight, but his voice was calm, steady, like a shield. Around her, the soldiers passed near their hiding place. One paused, his torchlight sweeping dangerously close to the stone where they crouched. The alien warrior's breath caught in her throat. The human's hand pressed gently over hers, grounding her, holding her steady in silence. The soldier lingered, scanning the shadows. For a long moment, it seemed discovery was certain. Then another voice called him, and the patrol moved on. Their steps faded, swallowed by the night. Only then did the human release the breath he had been holding. He looked at her, his face shadowed, his eyes steady. "You see now?" he whispered. "If I left you, you'd already be dead." Her lips parted, but no words came. She hated to admit it, but he was right. She would not have survived alone. The night pressed heavy around them, the air thick with danger. They were hunted by beasts, hunted by soldiers, and hunted by fate itself. Yet in the middle of that darkness, she felt a spark. A bond, fragile but real, tying her to the man beside her. For the first time, she looked at a human and did not see only an enemy. She saw someone who risked everything for her. Someone who could have walked away, but chose to stay as they moved. Again, through the ruins, slow and careful, the alien warrior felt a thought rising in her heart. A thought she dared not speak aloud. Perhaps this human was not her captor, not her enemy. Perhaps he was her only chance to live. And as the patrols spread through the night, the hunt had truly begun. The night dragged on as the human soldier and the alien warrior pushed deeper into the ruins. The world around them was broken, burned buildings, stood like skeletons. Streets were covered in ash, and every corner seemed alive with shadows. Each step felt heavier than the last. The alien warrior's body grew weaker with every passing hour. Her wound ached, and her legs shook beneath her. Several times she stumbled, and each time the human caught her before she could fall. His arm around her waist was the only thing keeping her upright. "I told you to leave me," she whispered again, bitterness in her tone, but her eyes betrayed something else, fear. "Your strength is wasted on me." The human shook his head, his face unreadable. "You're still alive. That means it's not wasted." His words silenced her. For a warrior who had lived her whole life by the laws of strength, his answer made no sense. Among her people, weakness was shame. If one could not walk, they were left behind. Yet this human refused to leave her. As dawn crept slowly over the ruins, hunger began to gnaw at them both. The alien warrior clutched her stomach, her body trembling. She had not eaten since the battle. The pain was almost unbearable. The human reached into his pack and pulled out the last of his rations, small piece of dry bread and a strip of meat. It was hardly enough for one person, but it was all he had. He broke the bread in half and held it out to her. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "No," she said quickly, shaking her head. "That is yours. Without it, you will starve." "I'll survive," he said firmly. "But you won't." She stared at the food, her pride warring with her hunger. To take it felt like defeat, like admitting weakness to her enemy. Yet her body was shaking, her lips dry, her strength fading. The human pushed the food gently into her hands. "Eat," he said. Her fingers trembled as she lifted the bread. She took a small bite, the dry taste filling her mouth. Tears burned her eyes, not from pain, but from shame. Her enemy was feeding her. "You give me your food," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Why? What do you gain from this?" The human sat beside her, his back against a broken wall. His eyes looked tired, his face worn from war. But his voice was calm. "Not everything is about gain. Sometimes it's about what's right." His words cut deeper than she expected. Among her people, no one acted without purpose. Mercy was weakness, kindness was foolishness. Yet here was a human who gave her his food, his strength, and his protection, expecting nothing in return. The silence stretched between them, filled only by the sound of her chewing. Slowly, she realized something terrifying. She was beginning to trust him. But trust was dangerous. The alien warrior lifted her gaze, her voice low. "What if I betray you? What if I kill you the moment I regain my strength?" The human turned, his head toward her. His eyes met hers without fear. "Then that will be my end. But until that moment comes, I will protect you." Her chest tightened. No one had ever spoken to her like that before, not even her own kind. Before she could answer, a new danger arrived. Voices drifted from the distant human soldiers. Patrols searching the ruins. The human cursed under his breath and pulled her deeper into the shadows. He crouched low, his hand on his weapon, his body tense. The alien warrior's heart pounded. If the patrol saw her, she would be killed instantly. And if they saw him protecting her, he would be branded a traitor. The soldiers drew closer, their boots echoing on the broken ground. One of them carried a radio, calling out any survivors. "Report." The human pressed the alien against the rubble, shielding her with his own body. She could feel his breath against her ear, steady and calm, despite the danger. The patrol stopped, only a few feet away. One soldier kicked aside a helmet, muttering, "No one's left alive. They're all dead." The alien warrior trembled. She looked at the human, their faces close. So close she could see the dirt on his skin, the cut across his cheek, the fire in his eyes. He was not afraid. He was ready to fight if needed, but only to protect her. At last, the patrol moved on, their footsteps fading into silence. The human let out a slow breath and leaned back, his hand brushing her shoulder. "We have to move before they come back." She nodded weakly, her throat tight. The fear she felt was not only from the patrol, it was from the bond forming between them as he helped her up again. She whispered, "You risk everything. Your food, your life, even your honor. Why?" The human looked at her with quiet strength. "Because you asked for mercy, I answered." Her heart shook at his words. She could no longer deny it. Her trust was growing against her will, against her training, against everything she believed. But trust was a dangerous thing in a world like this, and she feared that soon it would be tested in ways neither of them could survive. The sun was rising over the ruins, painting the battlefield in pale light. Smoke still rose from the burned machines, and the stench of blood lingered heavy in the air. The human soldier guided the alien warrior forward, her steps slow and unsteady, his arm firm around her waist. Every moment was a race against time. He needed to reach the human extraction point before another patrol found them. But her wound slowed them, and he knew the longer they stayed in the open, the greater the risk. The alien warrior could feel his strength pushing her forward, but inside, her pride fought against it. She hated leaning on him, hated showing weakness. Yet she also knew the truth without him. She would already be dead. "Your people will kill you if they see me with you," she whispered, her voice low. "They will call you traitor." "Maybe," the human said, his eyes scanning the horizon. "But I won't hand you over. Not to them, not to anyone." His words left her silent. She had never known anyone who would risk so much for her as they moved through the ruins. A sudden sound shattered the stillness, the sharp crack of rifles. Bullets tore through the rubble nearby, sending shards of stone into the air. The human pushed the alien down, covering her with his body. A voice rang out, hard and cruel. "Enemy sighted. A survivor killed the alien." It was not alien voices this time. It was human soldiers. The alien warrior's blood turned cold. She looked at the man beside her, fear burning in her chest. His own people wanted her dead. And if they saw him protecting her, they would kill him too. The human's jaw tightened. He pulled her behind a broken wall, bullets striking the stone around them. He gripped his weapon and glanced at her. "Stay down," he said, firmly. "You cannot fight them all." She whispered, her voice sharp with fear. He looked at her with steady eyes. "Then we die together." Her heart froze at his words. No human had ever said that to her before. The patrol closed in, their voices growing louder. "Bring her out. End her now." The human raised his weapon and fired. One soldier fell, another ducked behind cover. The air filled with gunfire, the sound echoing across the battlefield. The alien warrior pressed her hand to her wound, struggling to rise. Her pride screaming at her to fight, but her body betrayed her again. She collapsed back into the dirt, watching as the human stood tall against his own kind. He moved with precision, each shot controlled, his body shielding her from the storm of bullets. Dust rose, sparks flew from metal, and still he fought. The alien warrior felt rage boil inside her, not at him, but at herself. She was helpless, useless, forced to watch as her enemy fought and bled for her. Her hand closed around a shard of broken steel beside her. She would not die as a burden. One of the human soldiers broke through the smoke, charging with a blade. The human turned, but he was too slow. The alien warrior rose with a scream, driving the shard into the soldier's chest. The man fell, his eyes wide with shock. The alien gasped, the effort tearing at her wound, and collapsed again. The human caught her before she hit the ground. His eyes burned with both anger and relief. "I told you to stay down and leave you to die." She spat weakly. "Never." For a moment, their eyes locked in the chaos, and something unspoken passed between them. The gunfire slowed, the last of the patrol retreating, dragging their wounded with them. The battlefield fell silent again, but the danger was far from over. The human knelt beside her, checking her wound. Blood seeped through the bandages, her face pale with exhaustion. He tore another strip of cloth from his uniform and pressed it against her side. She gritted her teeth, pain flashing across her face. Why? Why risk everything? Your people will call you traitor. Mine will call me disgrace. Why fight for me? He met her gaze, his voice steady. Because mercy is not weakness. Because your life matters. And because I chose you. Her chest tightened at his words. She wanted to deny it, to push him away, but her heart betrayed her. For the first time, she felt something stronger than pride, stronger than fear. Hope. The human lifted her once more, carrying her through the ruins toward the extraction point. But even as he moved, he knew the danger was not finished. His own commander would demand answers. His own army would question his loyalty. And she, the alien warrior once feared by all, now lived only because of him. Together, they were trapped. Between two worlds hunted by both sides, bound by one choice. The path ahead held only two endings: escape or death. The human soldier carried the alien warrior through the smoke-filled ruins, until the site of the human camp appeared in the distance. Makeshift tents, supply crates, and armored vehicles stood like silent giants in the gray light of morning. Soldiers moved in patrol lines, their weapons raised, their eyes sharp. The alien warrior tensed in his arms. Her breathing grew shallow, and fear burned in her chest. She knew what waited for her inside that camp: chains, prison, or death. Her people had abandoned her, but the humans would not be merciful either. "Put me down," she whispered, her voice weak but urgent. "If they see me, they'll kill you. You'll be called a traitor." The human's arms only tightened around her. His voice was calm, steady, but unyielding. "I told you before, I will not leave you. Whatever comes, I will face it." Her throat closed, her pride and fear clashing inside her heart. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not her own kind, not even those who once followed her into a battle. As they neared the camp, guards spotted them. Rifles were raised instantly. "Halt," one shouted. "Drop the alien. Step away now." The human stopped walking, but he did not put her down. His chest rose and fell heavily, his face set like stone. The alien warrior could feel his heart pounding, yet his grip on her never loosened. The camp commander stepped forward, a tall man with sharp eyes and a cold voice. "Soldier, explain yourself. Why is the enemy still breathing? Why is she in?" "Your arms." The human's jaw tightened. He lowered the alien gently onto her feet, keeping her steady with one arm. Then he stood tall, his voice clear. "She asked for mercy, and I answered." A murmur spread through the soldiers. Some laughed bitterly, others cursed under their breath. The commander's eyes narrowed. "Mercy. She is your enemy. She killed our men. You disobeyed direct orders. Do you know what that means?" "I know," the human said, his voice unshaken. "It means I chose humanity over hatred. It means I saved a life instead of ending it." The alien warrior looked up at him, her chest tightening. She had expected him to deny her, to hand her over at the first command. Instead, he risked his name, his honor, even his life. The commander's face darkened. "Then you are a traitor." Gasps rose among the soldiers. The alien warrior's eyes widened, fear striking her heart. They would kill him because of her before She could speak. The human stepped forward, his body shielding hers. His voice rang out, strong and unwavering. "Call me what you will, but I will not watch her die when she begged for life." The silence that followed was heavy. Every soldier stared, waiting for the commander's command. The alien warrior's hands trembled. She had been left to die by her own people, abandoned without a second thought. Yet here stood a human, her enemy, who defied his entire army. For her heart ached, and without thinking, she stepped forward. Her weak voice broke the silence. "If he is traitor, then so am I. He saved me when all others left me to die. Kill me if you must, but let him live." The soldiers shifted, uncomfortably, their eyes flicking between the two. The commander's expression hardened, but the weight of her words pressed into the silence. The human turned to her, shock in his eyes. "You don't have to." "I do," she interrupted, her voice trembling but firm, "'cause I cannot. Let your mercy cost your life. You gave me hope when I had none. That I will not betray." For a long moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, the commander lowered his hand. "Take them both to the council. Let them decide." The tension broke, but the danger remained. Soldiers surrounded them, weapons still ready, but the human and the alien stood side by side. As they were led into the camp, the alien warrior leaned close, her voice soft so only he could hear. "Why do you fight for me, when even my own kind would not?" The human looked at her, his eyes steady, his words simple, "Because every life has worth, even yours. Especially yours." Her chest tightened at his words. For the first time in her life, she felt something greater than fear, greater than pride. She felt the possibility of change. Perhaps her people were wrong. Perhaps mercy was not weakness. Perhaps it was strength, as the camp gates closed behind them. Both knew their fates were uncertain. The council could choose to punish them, exile them, or even kill them. But one truth was clear. They were no longer just enemies. They were bound by something stronger: trust, born for mercy, tested by danger, and sealed by sacrifice. The alien warrior, once abandoned to die, now walked into an unknown future with the only human who had stayed behind, and for the first time since the war began. She dared to believe this was not the end. It was a new beginning.